And our conversations now continue this morning. And joining us in the hot seat this morning is Wakili Evans Ogada. Good morning, Wakili.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Could be better. The mood is dampened, of course, by the headlines we see today. It's a sorrowful day for the country. And nonetheless, we must soldier on.
This is true. And forms part of our conversation this morning as we get into it. We're going to be looking at this big by-election that has brought a lot of this in. And even before we do that, as you know, we go through proverbs that we've come from a different African country every week. Dennis will tell you where we are this week.
Yeah, we are in Libya. 90% of the country is Sahara Desert pretty much. And what that means is water, zero. But they are blessed with amazing, sweet crude that is easy to process. And if you look at what that did prior to Libya and making it be one of the model democracies that one would look at in terms of economy, when Muammar Gaddafi took power, and fuel in the country was cheap, was affordable, but water was expensive. Why? Because they spent much more to clean up water that they got from the sea to be able to supply to the people. I remember at the time when Muammar Gaddafi opened the water and people were swimming and enjoying the water because it was made available to them. But look at Libya today because of politics. Look at Libya today. And one asks, in a country where education, healthcare, services were available to the people, how did we lose focus to a point where today Libya is just a shell of its former self? Perhaps a lot to learn. But the proverb we equally get from Libya: if you have me, you share me. If you don't share me, you don't have me. How would you interpret it?
Wow. You can only give what you have. If you don't have it, you cannot have the capacity to have people share in that vacuum space. Yes.
Well said. Well interpreted.
Very well said. By-election, we already know why by-elections happen in this country according to the Constitution. One of them is happening in 24 to 36 hours, the 15th of July. And the run-up to this has been quite interesting. And the IEBC has been called in. Many said has already been an indictment on how the IEBC is operating and how it will operate into the future, and what it's said about politicians and what their plan is moving into the next election, the general election, which happens in 2027. But if there are any lessons to learn from Ogada, even before that by-election takes place, from where you sit, if you were to give a general overview of what has happened so far, especially where the IEBC is concerned, what would that be?
Well, if Ogada and the instances we're seeing in the country are anything to go by, it stands as an indictment on the IEBC, and not only the IEBC, but the gentlemen and ladies who are currently in charge of the security of this country. The election has three phases. There's the pre-phase, the election phase, and the post-phase. So in the lead up to 2027, Ogada and all these mini elections serve as a test for the pre-phase. And you can see the problems, the challenges we are facing. I mean, look at the violence that has been meted out on the streets of Ogada. Yesterday, brazenly, something that we had not seen before in Kisumu, young men walking, carrying bows and arrows in broad daylight. Was it at 11 in the morning?
Yep.
And if we are to look at the assessment of preparedness for the IEBC during the pre-phase, then the IEBC stands indicted, because the IEBC has the power to summon anyone to ask questions in terms of readiness. What are you doing to handle the security issues in the lead up to election? And we I don't know. I was reading somewhere that the Kofi Annan Foundation has raised concerns about the phase we are in.
Yes.
almost 20 short years ago, Kenya was on the brink, and it appears that those lessons were never learned. And those lessons should remain ever vivid for us, particularly for Mr. Ethicon, who is now in charge of the IEBC. It looks bad, and we need sobriety in the lead up to next year.
I mean, okay, when you look at the election, it's a process. We won't say that election is something that you wake up one day and voila, it's in there. IEBC has been in there training. IEBC is there and looking at policies, looking at the laws that governs them, the powers that the Constitution gives them during an electoral process. And we look at also the coordination between IEBC and the police, and IEBC even having power to ask the police to go and investigate. Yet we're sitting here and all we are hearing is, we are warning, we are warning, we are warning, we will act. Are these individuals who really do understand their work and their job, the job they've been given to ensure that the elections of our country, free, fair, credible, and verifiable?
This is perhaps the sad tragedy of having lackeys and court poets in critical offices. And Article 249 of the Constitution, any commissioner, and certainly the IEBC chair, are properly equipped in terms of constitutional authority to perform their mandate under Article 88 of the Constitution. Now, when you come to the public and appear as helpless, as incapable of doing anything, then we start asking questions. And the consequences of inaction or the kind of sorry rhetoric we are hearing from the IEBC, and I'm looking at your Standard newspaper today, I'm seeing the images from yesterday in Kisumu. These are building grounds for a repeat of 2007. And not even the IEBC will be spared. You will be held accountable for your commissions and omissions. You have the authority in law. If you look at Article 88 of the Constitution, not Article 88, but Article 84 of the Constitution, the Electoral Code of Conduct is a very important document, a derivative of the Constitution, that empowers the IEBC to take certain drastic measures on all persons involved in elections. So it is not enough for us, for the IEBC to cherry pick certain easy candidates in Olkalau and punish them, then forget the bigger picture. So, for example, we saw Olkalau being the beneficiary of gas cylinders, mattresses. What else did we see?
Boats.
Boats. So you ask
water pipes and
water pipes. And the question goes to Ethicon, and he's a lawyer. If you look at the Political Offences Act and you read, is it Section 9 of that Act, it talks of bribery. What is bribery? We have an entire act dedicated to what bribery is, the Bribery Act. Section 5, 6, and 7 tell us what bribery is and the context in which a bribe is deemed to have been offered or received. So the law is there, but what is Ethicon and his commissioners doing? In addition to that, we have certain pending issues, and I don't envy the position of this commission at all. We have certain audit queries that still remain pending. We have the KPMG audit from last elections cycle, where certain problems were identified with the ICT component of the election. Has Ethicon come back to us and informed the public that these are the remedial measures we have taken in terms of redressing these problems? To the best of my knowledge, that has not happened. So it is a perception problem. And the perception will make the Ethicon Commission suffer the same fate that people before him have suffered. I think the last IEBC that enjoyed some semblance of confidence was the Kivuitu Mukele axis in 2002. That is the last time IEBC enjoyed public confidence. Subsequent to that, IEBC has been seen as a manipulated, corrupt institution, and going by what we are seeing now, that image has not been shed.
Because, okay, you've mentioned something that is very critical, I think, in the conversation, where the chair IEBC is not just any other citizen out here. This one is a law student. Student of the law who understands what the law says.
Yes.
I would be forgiven to look at the Election Act and not read that together with other chapters of the Constitution, because I'm not a law student.
Yes.
But they do understand what the law says and what it is that they must do. That we're not seeing these actions being taken then. I conclude that they are knowingly taking us through this uncomfortable ride because they understand the law. They know exactly what they should do, but choose not to do it.
And it is a sad state of affairs. And the chair IEBC should remember the words of the Kriegler report. The Kriegler report stands out as a historical account of the madness that politicians almost caused in this country, pushing us almost to the brink in 2007. The IEBC was equally indicted for opaque processes, processes that were aberrantly unlawful, processes that did not enjoy public confidence. Ethicon and his people should know that the currency they trade with the public is public trust. The perception that the public has with the IEBC, that is what will inform confidence or lack thereof. And we are seeing the inaction and the hopelessness with which the IEBC is operating as feeding what we are seeing on the streets. Because a year to the election, and you see the images out of Kisumu, and generally this is feeding to the general crime and lawlessness we're seeing in the country. Yesterday I was seeing some video of a lady who was seated out in a salon somewhere, and she is mugged outside the salon. And we have seen various videos of the instances of crime that have become the norm as a result of this phenomenon called goonship, which is thuggery, for the lack of a better term. And these are things that Ethicon should call to order. He needs to sit down with the other lawyers. And this involves my good friend, the CS for Interior, Kipchumba Murkomen.
Who's a lawyer too?
He's a lawyer. And he used to be a CU chairperson somewhere. And he's usually a reasonable person.
I'm grappling with something. I don't quite understand. Because we talk about it all the time. There is a constitution. There are agencies and institutions that are tasked with the responsibility of holding the constitution in their different respects. So the IEBC, a constitutional commission, which is tasked with the responsibility of conducting free, fair, and seen to be free, fair elections, right? And all of that. So if something is going wrong, why is it so difficult to not just call it out, but put an end to it? And that question can be applied across board. If there is something going wrong with security, if there are criminals amok, the video that you gave reference to, that people have become so comfortable. I mean, the guy was holding a gun in broad daylight outside of a shop where there were people walking along the road.
Yes.
If it has been clear that this is the law and this is how we follow it, then the probability of such a gentleman, and I wouldn't call him a gentleman, of a criminal doing what he was doing yesterday then reduces significantly.
Yes.
So why is it so difficult to call things out and act on them? Interior security, internal security, IEBC. Look at the headlines. There are fake drugs on sale. People who are living with HIV are ingesting expired drugs, and somebody's still in office. Why is it so difficult to deal with these things?
I think we are dealing with human beings who either are berserk, have degenerated into lunatics, or are simply overwhelmed by the largesse of power, that they have become so selfish that I don't care if the other person leaves or dies, so long as I have what makes me comfortable, that I'm okay. And I'll need to remind these individuals that you have your relatives here. You have your children here. You have built houses, and whatever money that you think you have, some of it is here. You will not be safe when this country burns. And the lessons of 2007 are still with us. And that is why I was saying, for example, Kipchumba Murkomen used to be a lecturer, the thing I'm doing currently. And he knows the importance of the strength of the state. The state and government are different things. The state remains. Government come and go, but the state remains. State institutions must remain strong. Today he is in charge of security. Just like Matiang'i was powerful, breathing brimstone and fire in that docket. Tomorrow you are gone. If the country collapses under your watch, as a lawyer, he knows very well that you will be one of the prime targets for investigation and possible prosecution by international criminal mechanisms. So it is important for them to remember that you may disregard the law because it is convenient for you today. You may undermine institutions. Ethicon and his people might play the favoritism card they are being accused of. You may look the other eye because Irongo Kangata's driver has been shot and he doesn't belong to, quote unquote, to the status quo.
Yeah.
That will come to bite you.
Yeah.
And the history is here with us. We have history from other parts of the world where small cumulative, quote unquote, small cumulative instances like this boiled over and led to the collapse of the state. So whatever they are doing, they need to ensure that apparatus of state remain active, remain strong, remain efficient, and operate according to the law.
Okay, we are approaching 2027 elections, and IEBC has been given an opportunity, according to me, to fix whatever else needs to be fixed through the by-elections that have happened. Yet you look at how IEBC has held all the by-elections, and questions are being raised on their capacity to handle the elections in 2027. Why? Because the election is not just a day's event. It is enshrined behind laws that govern how it is played. As we approach 2027, Kenyans are asking, how do we trust IEBC that it is able to deliver an election as prescribed by the Constitution? Where that trust lacks, what does it mean to elections of 2027?
IEBC as an EMB, an election management body, is required under international law and domestic constitutional law and legislative instruments to be impartial.
Yep.
Impartiality on its part hinges on a number of measures, and certainly Article 81 of the Constitution gives us parameters that the IEBC must focus on in terms of its preparedness. So Article 81 says this, that any election must be free from violence, intimidation, improper influence, and corruption. Number two, it must be conducted by an independent body. I'll look at those two. Violence, already we have problems on the street. What is Ethicon doing? Intimidation. We saw these videos of hooded people commandeering and intercepting a DCP caravan on the way to Olkalau. And that is despite the fact that Justice Thande Mogore, sitting in Malindi, and other judges, the Kisumu High Court, making it very clear that even if you're the police, you need not to cover your face. Yes. Ethicon has not seen it right to call out this because he's a lawyer, number one. And these actions by certain police officers are going against declarations of the court. So already we are seeing grounds being set up for a violation of Article 81, violence. Look at the independence of the IEBC. The independence is not only actual, but it's perception. What are Kenyans increasingly looking at in terms of the conduct of the IEBC? We are seeing an IEBC that is pussyfooting, an IEBC that speaks from both sides of the mouth, huffing and puffing. For heck, apart from Ethicon, who we see once in a while giving us the PR, where are the rest of the commissioners? Because you see, Ethicon is just primus inter pares, one amongst equals. And those commissioners are going to be collectively responsible and individually responsible. So they need to remember that there are certain things that they need to do in the lead up to the election. I spoke of the KPMG audit. We have not been given an audit of the mass with the mass failure of the BVR kits. Has anyone, have the political players been taken through an audit of those kits again?
No, we just want to buy new ones.
Yeah, we are thinking of buying new ones so that people get their cuts.
Yeah.
and when the country boils over, when people are killing each other, these people will have their choppers to fly out of the country. Look at the decision by the Supreme Court. Some of us were not so confident with what the court said, but it gave certain recommendations in terms of the last election. Has the IEBC followed through to see that those recommendations have been put in place? So we are basically going to an election with an IEBC that is limping, an IEBC that is not enjoying confidence. And I beseech Ethicon, wherever he is, Murkomen, you are in charge of security. And of course, I'll not leave out Professor Kithure Kindiki, another lawyer. Those lawyers I'll not spare. You know what is coming. If you don't sit down and calm your nerves, if you don't allow the good officers, the good police officers, leave alone these rogue ones that you're using, to do their work as required by law, this country is going to burn. And it will burn with your relatives, it will burn with your friends, it will burn with your children.
And you mentioned something that, the people who are supposed to be establishing and maintaining law and order are actually maybe anybody who could do anything on a rainy day. But the folks who could actually make sure that this be established are not the ones who are being assigned. That the four people that we see in this picture, I'm going to keep referencing that because it's really baffling me that how they can be standing looking at these criminals who are wielding these weapons. They're not the folks who then could establish law and order. The people who could are not here. Why are they not being brought out?
Well, I can say this with some confidence that we have very good men and women in our security apparatus. Not all of them are rotten.
Yes.
And I know some considerable investment has been put in training them. What ails us as a country is political interference with the role of these people. And therefore, the buck stops with the politicians and again falls with Kipchumba Murkomen during this time of Kenya's historical progression. The buck also falls with the line commanders of the National Police Service. That is Kanja, Masengeli, Lagat, the DCI guy. I mean,
Yes.
you are all responsible because you are expected to be independent and execute your mandate because no one is above the law. Everyone is equal and should face the law equally. So when we have these faces in Kisumu carrying arrows and bows and walking in the streets this boldly, and nobody will be arrested, the goons that caused mayhem in Olkalau. And this comes in the wake of Senator Osotsi
Yes.
being attacked so brazenly in Kisumu, in the Java, in some mall there. What happened to that case?
They're out of the country.
Yeah.
They escaped.
They escaped.
And this culture of impunity, and that is what I call a shaggy dog story. Hocus pocus, nonsense upon stilts. When these people need to act, you will see them acting. But you see, the problem these people forget is that you are getting a genie out of the bottle. You're not going to put it back. The lessons of 2007 seems to have been lost, and people have gotten too comfortable because these boys that you pay 200, if it goes high, probably 1,000 shillings.
Yep.
And you ask them to go and attack a church because you're not happy with the bishop there who speaks his truth. And shout out to that bishop. I always like him when I see his face. He's one guy who speaks his mind.
Interestingly enough, he's your okay. Uh-huh.
He's one of those that speaks his mind.
Yeah.
And he says, he calls truth, power to order.
To order.
So why would you authorize, and starting point is, where was the OCS, the OCPD, and the regional commander when this was happening?
Yeah.
In broad daylight.
True.
And then you're going to give us the usual laquered story of these people are outside the country, we are still doing our investigations. Come on, boulder dash.
Okay, as we look at elections, again, it's a process. But one thing that has happened in the country is that every other election has ended up at the Supreme Court. And I'll just go through some of the recommendations that have been given since 2013. And let's just go through them. In 2013, the court said, improve reliability and testing of election voter identification and results transmission system. Develop stronger contingency plans for technology failures. Now, enhance transparency in vote tallying and result verification. Improve training of election officials in the use of technology and electoral process. Strengthen public confidence through greater openness and accountability in election management. You come to 2017, ensure all election results are verifiable, transparent, and accountable. Strictly comply with the Constitution and electoral laws rather than relying on substantial compliance. There are 8 of them. But if you go to just a summary of the same, these are what appeared to be similar across all the judgments that we see, which include full compliance with the Constitution and electoral law, transparent and verifiable election process, reliable and secure election technology, accurate completion and management of statutory election reforms, and greater transparency in tallying and declaration of results, improved training and preparedness of election officials, and stronger institutional governance within IEBC. Why? So that we do not see the backlash or the misunderstanding within the commission itself. These are all judgments that have been given in 3 separate elections.
Yes.
One asks the question, what is the responsibility of the court then in following up on its recommendations and whether they are being implemented? Because as a court, I don't want to be talking about the same thing after every 5 years on failures that continue existing without being sorted out. What's the responsibility of the court?
There are 2 platforms that the Supreme Court can use to follow up whether its recommendations in previous elections have been adhered to, and if anything is happening. We have the National Council of Administration of Justice. That is a multi-sectoral platform where all these arms of government sit, and that should inform follow through in terms of what needs to happen. Then we have the Judicial Election Committee. I don't know who is the chair. Justice Ibrahim was the chair there. I don't know who is the current chair. The Judicial Election Committee should also follow through in terms of those recommendations. And that committee has previously done some good job, led to certain considerable amendments in terms of our election laws. Particularly when Justice Musinga was chair, Justice Maraga, we saw some very good work by that committee. The question is, have those bodies done what they need to do? Certainly from what we see, nothing has happened. And it speaks to the culture that we have in this country. Kriegler report is written because Kriegler had a lot of things to say. These judicial decisions, they are stacked somewhere, gathering dust. When it comes to the next election, people are busy looking for tenders. How am I going to get my cut? And we ran perhaps the most costly election in Africa, if not the world.
Yeah.
So you ask yourself, with all that money dedicated to running of elections, why are we not getting it right? My good friend and mentor, Professor PLO Lumumba, says it's just the culture of bad manners. You cannot legislate in terms of good manners. It is a cultural, ethical question. And it begs the question, what happens to people when they get to public office? Because I look at Kipchumba Murkomen regularly. Murkomen was with us in the courts the other day. And he, for all intents and purposes, he's a good guy. But when he gets to public office, you ask yourself, what happened to the Murkomen we knew and the guy in public office? What is happening? And they know the consequences. They are the lawyers who should pitch for reforms. They are the lawyers who should pitch for the right thing. I remember when they were on the other side, they were saying that they are not going to repeat what had happened before. The kidnappings, the killings, the mismanagement. Now the shoe is on the other side. What's happening?
Is it being sensational that they're talking about cases like this being in isolation because when something is going on? So is it being sensational to call it out now and likening it to what happened in 2007, 2008 in this country? Or is it saying that, okay, well, these are just, just goons. It's just, it could be a politician, running amok with some kind of political ambition, and that you don't need to have your radar up because it's not going to be on more than that. In Kalau, for example, it seems to be now the travel destination for quite a number of politicians as of this weekend, and everybody's landing there. But then the things that you see, and then using this as a litmus test for what could happen later, is it being sensational to say that, you don't want another conflict situation like what happened then, or just treat this as an isolated case?
It is not being sensational at all, and I am aware that we have people who have already spoken of a repeat of 2007 and perhaps on a worse scale. And the evidence is there, because apart from the goon culture that appears to be taking root on a carte blanche, look at the thuggery and the crime that is attendant. We have an institution in this country called the National Crime Center that has a report sitting somewhere that warned several years ago of this habit of thugs, goons being nurtured by politicians. It warned. Who took to heed that advice? Was it Matiang'i during the last election, who as security minister, and he happened to have the benefit of confidential reports that you and I don't have. He warned of the same. The youth and the goons being used, and the people who we are sending to parliament. So these are not sensational at all. The problem is that we have people who go into government and don't know how to run government at all. And they think that being in government is synonymous with being driven in big vehicles, having a coterie of police officers following you through, the trappings of power. That is being in government. Government is not run in that manner. And I go back to the IEBC. The IEBC has 3 capacities in terms of authority under the law and the constitution that it must use to save the next election. They have the regulatory authority, they have supervisory authority, they have enforcement capacity. Ethicon, and he's a lawyer, he needs to stand up and marshal his commissioners to ensure that these 3 capacities are brought to bear to save the next election.
Okay, history is a good lesson. Is a part where you look at it and say, I don't want to go back there. It helps you decide your future. But here then we are looking at where it is from the reports that we do have, court decisions, you look at the constitution of the country, and also just being a good student of environment where we are as a people. But today we're being told that the police in one way or the other cannot arrest. Reason why, I do not know. Because I fail to understand how, with the greatest intelligence we have as a country, we cannot be able to stop incidences of violence when they are about to happen. That today it's easy for us to look at a court order and decide. They said that we should not wear balaclavas, we will wear because mtadu. We have the mtadu culture that we are seeing today. We have IEBC that is a lapdog. It's not saying anything. It's just barking but not biting. And with that then, Wakili, as a people who also participate in these elections, what must we do together to get it right?
Number one, as a people, and starting with these brothers and sisters of mine, because in Keumbu, I also saw women partaking in acts of hooliganism and thuggery. Let us stop being cheapened. 200 shillings, 100 shillings, 500 shillings, 1,000 maximum. That is what is given to you to risk your life carrying bows and arrows to go attack a church. Stop bad habits. Your life is more than the 200 shillings that politician is giving you. If you cheapen yourself to that extent, that is why you, in some parts of this country, whereas Olkalau was lucky to get gas and all the mattresses, in parts of this country, was it in Kisumu the other day that they were haggling about 200 being too low. Some place people are given salt.
Lollipop.
Yeah,
Lollipop.
lollipops.
Yeah?
A string of...
How cheap can you be? So we have to, number one, understand that the office of citizen is important. Stop cheapening yourself. Number two, we need to be constantly following what is happening, particularly with elections. We have a lot of capacity in terms of the law, but the law will do nothing if we don't actively...
You have to activate it.
You have to activate it. Because you see, you are told to engage in public participation. Public participation in terms of the election involves various facets. For example, which citizen has been motivated enough to follow through with the KPMG audit? That is a sitting duck for us. It's the elephant in the room. Who has asked Ethicon about the audit of the BVR kits, the failure, the audit of the entire system? Yet Ethicon is leading us to an election, and come the next general election, within an hour or two of the elections, BVR kits have failed en masse. And then you'll get results that some of us will start saying, these were not from my home area, or results have been doctored. This is the time for you as a citizen to start doing what is right. Now, to those who are sitting in public office, and I mentioned them in no particular order, Ethicon, the lawyer, Murkomen, the lawyer, those sitting in IEBC, those in charge of the police service, and I dare add Kithure Kindiki, the deputy president of this country, who is also another lawyer. They should know better. and they know that we are still members of the International Criminal Court, everything that is happening now, whether we withdraw or not, will be subject of scrutiny by the ICC. Our international partners are watching. This country still needs investment, needs to create job opportunities for our youth because we have a youth problem. I'm told we are about 58 million now. Mm-hmm. That number is increasing. You need to create opportunities for these young people. So many companies are laying off people. If you continue running the country in this knee-jerk manner, this country will boil. And we have historical precedents. Go to Haiti, go to CAR, Central African Republic, mm-hmm. go to Rwanda before 94. And even the rhetoric, because some of these people in positions of cabinet secretary speak as if they are still politicians. You need to be measured in terms of what you say, because your tongues are inflaming issues. When you hear people like Ruku and the rest speaking, they chest thump a lot. You need to be measured in how you speak. Be quiet. This one's in charge of police and security matters, and particularly also single out this spokesman of theirs. Always very careless in terms of the releases they get out there. Please respect the country, respect your office. You're not the first there. You're not going to be the last. Are you going to be the one that tanks the country? Is the country going to sink under your watch?
So even as we ask these questions, then Kenya goes, well, the by-election happens in a couple of days, and that we did hear maybe the IEBC flexing his muscle a little bit the other day and saying, you must stop this, or fining certain individuals a certain amount of money. Does that cut it? Is that enough to send out an alarm?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. And you've had several actors question the impartiality of the IEBC, because they're asking, fine, you are going for this one particular MP, mm-hmm. but what happens to the big honchos in government? Mm-hmm. What happens to the security officers? Because some of the things they have done or not done are serious enough mm-hmm. under the Election Code, Article 84. And some of the things that have been done are seriously offenses under the Bribery Act, okay. under the Election Offences Act. What is Ethicon doing? So the IEBC needs to pull up its socks. And I don't know, Gabriel Mukele, a very decent old man, is still alive and somewhere in Kakamega. Ethicon needs to sit down with Gabriel Mukele. And he needs to talk to Gabriel Mukele to give him some lessons on how to run the IEBC.
It sounds like he might be having a bit of a pickle of a moment, because here you are having come from a defunct IEBC where half the commissioners, trotted off, others, whatever. And then an election then was questioned. And then so you've come in, and then there's already something that you're trying to prove that we can actually do this. And then no sooner than you say Bob's your uncle, the whole thing has tanked, and then people are indicting you before you've had a chance to, start. Could it be that the team is struggling under the expectation and now needs a minute to actually show its might? No?
How long have they been in office?
We're getting to a year.
Yes.
Yeah.
I hear it's too long.
Yeah. Okay.
And if you feel that the seat is too hot, get out of the kitchen.
Okay.
So there will be no excuse for the IEBC and certainly its chair that things, we were still learning on the ropes, we're still getting, we still need to be sure-footed as goats. That will not help us. If you are not confident, if you feel that it's too hot, get out. The responsibility to conduct the elections in a free, fair, transparent manner lies with the IEBC. They have the capacity in law. The problem is perception. They may tell us that we are doing A, B, C, D. If you do not work with the public and the public trusts the process, then all that you're doing will result to naught. Yes.
Evans Ogada, thank you for joining us this morning. I think there have been warnings in addition to the lessons, and perhaps that's what we need to keep talking about before it gets to a place that is now unmanageable.
And as a lawyer, it will be remiss of me to not to go out of here without reminding everyone, because this will come to pass, that no one is above the law, no man is below it. Nor do we ask any man's permission when we ask him to obey it. That is Theodore Roosevelt. So all of you who are exercising the reins of office today, remember that.
Asante sana. Evans Ogada has been with us this morning. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.